Hey guys, it's Jim. Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to my Cityscapes tutorial series in Luminar. Hope you're getting something out of these videos. I'm certainly having fun recording them, so thanks again for watching. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. Feel free to like the video if you like it, that is. Leave a comment with any feedback. I'm always interested in hearing what you have to say. And of course, don't forget to share it with your friends. So now, having said all that, I want to dive into a photo here. So let's just go ahead and get started. And here's the photo. So this video is all about what do you do when Mother Nature doesn't agree with you. So, you know, we all go out to shoot and we have these visions of amazing scenes and beautiful skies and everything being wonderful, whether it's a sunset or whatever. But there's plenty of times, and I know you've been there just as much as I have, plenty of times when you show up to a place that you've wanted to shoot for a long time and it just sucks. And so what do you do? And so there's a couple things that I like to do. And this is basically my non-traditional style of editing. And basically it comes down to this. You know, I like big colors if you watch my videos, but I get to a scene like this and, you know, there's not really any color to work with. I can't just jack the saturation all the way to the right. It's not going to make it pretty. That's just going to be an oversaturated, you know, sort of clown vomit kind of thing. So I don't want to do that. So I try to think of how can I get creative, because I don't have any nice clouds to work with. It was an overcast day, but very flat and white in terms of the sky. So no clouds to work with, no real color to work with. It's not really that great of a photo, to be honest, but I like the view of the Eiffel Tower from this bridge in Paris. And by the way, this is the bridge that was used in the movie Inception, if you saw that. It's got a real name, which I can't pronounce, but I call it the Inception Bridge. Anyway, it's a great view of the Eiffel Tower, and I would love to be there under better conditions, but I wasn't. So what do I do? So the first thing I usually do is if I feel like I have a photo that's not redeemable in the traditional sense, then I want to get creative and do something different. So let's say in this case, I might start with just converting it to black and white. You know, always, I think, creating a black and white photo just gives it that sort of traditional sort of film look, and I think can make for an interesting image. So what I would do here is I'd probably just bump up the contrast. I might even blow out the highlights a little bit more, because I'm not going to be pulling anything out of the sky. There's nothing really to work with, so might as well just go for a stark, sort of contrasty photo, and maybe take the shadows down. And, you know, the before and after, there's the before, flat, pretty boring. After, that's a photo that could have been taken, you know, 50 years ago or, you know, 50 minutes ago. So that's what I like about black and white. And there's a million things you could do to it from here. You could come in and add all kinds of filters. You know, you could add details if you wanted. You could try make it sepia or something like that. You know, there's you could add a lot to mix it up and just try to get some different color looks. So truthfully, the options are limitless, which is what I like about Luminar a whole lot. But specifically for this photo, I think I would go add a texture. And so I'm going to start with the texture overlay filter, and I got a list here of things I'm going to add. So next I'm going to add tone, and then I'm going to add dramatic, and I'm going to get adjustable gradient, and lastly I'm going to get my favorite, color balance. I said it's not redeemable, but I'm always looking to add a little bit of color somewhere. I can't help it. It's what I do. So for textures, I've got this kind of burnt piece of paper thing that I like a lot. It's a great texture. I got it online somewhere, one of those free texture websites. So I did that, and I'm going to add that here at about 28 or so. And I use the texture overlay filter on purpose as opposed to adding a new layer. I've got a video I did, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, I think, about textures. And I talk about, they're both great methods. I've gotten to where I really prefer the texture overlay because I can do the zooming and that sort of thing, as well as flipping the texture around with these buttons here. I don't need to really. This texture is sort of uniform. I'm going to leave it the way it is, but that's why I use the texture overlay filter. So next with tone, I'm always about controlling the light. As you know, tone is probably my favorite filter for that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to just add, a decent amount of contrast. So I think something like that sort of brings it to life. And let me see here. I took the highlights down next. And so I'm taking those down a pretty good amount, something like about there, because the sky was too bright. So you can see the before and the after. We've sort of darkened the image. It actually enriched the colors a little bit, which I like. And I'm liking what we have so far. Next, I'm going to go with dramatic. I'm not going to do a whole lot here. So something like maybe like that, and maybe take the contrast down a little bit. I'm just giving it a little bit of oomph. I don't know what the word is really, but it kind of went from that to that. It's purely a personal choice. You may like it better the other way. In fact, I'm kind of on the fence, to be honest. I like it a lot that way, but I wanted to add a little bit of oomph. So I'm going to come back to that filter, and I do that a lot when I'm editing. I'll add filters, and then I'll do the before and after and check it. So I don't just do that in the videos. I do that when I'm on my own as well. And sometimes I'll sort of mentally, make a note and say, go back and see about that one, because I don't know if it's adding a lot to the photo. We'll find out. Okay, next is adjustable gradient. The exposure I think is fine. I was able to adjust that quite a bit by taking the highlights down so significantly. But what I do want to do is increase the contrast. So I'm going to bump that up a lot. In fact, all the way. So I'm going to do that. And then the contrast on the bottom, I'm going to bump up a little bit and maybe raise that exposure just a smidge. So here's the before and the after. Basically, all I did was increase the contrast selectively. Instead of using the contrast button or slider in the tone filter, which I did use, that affects the contrast across the entire image, of course, I use the contrast in the adjustable gradient because it allows you to split the picture in half. If you click on set orientation, you can see how that is lined up. And of course, you can move that if you haven't seen me do that before. It's basically in the middle of in the photo. I'm fine with where it is, so I just left it in this case. And now I'm down to color balance. And I think I'm going to leave the shadows alone. I'm going to go a little bit redder in the midtones. And so I'm going to do something like that. And then in the highlights, I'm going to go quite a bit bluer, something about like that. And so that gives it a little bit of that not quite as warm look. Let me show you the before and the after. It's a different look. And now I'm pretty much done with the photo. I'm going to go back to the dramatic filter. And there's the before. To me, it's a little bit softer. And there's the after. I think I like the drama, but I think I'll take it down a little bit to maybe 20. And so now let's see the before and the after. So that's really it. So it's just what, 5 filters? I got texture, tone, dramatic, adjustable gradient, and color balance. And so that's the other thing I like to sort of keep in mind, and that is you don't have to use a whole lot of stuff to make a significant difference in a photo. Now, obviously the texture made a huge difference, but let's turn that off. Yeah, see, without the texture, the photos, maybe better than the original, but I think the texture added a lot to it in terms of creating sort of an artistic interpretation of a scene that I wanted to look great, but didn't really look that great. And so that's really it, my friends. I think I made a lot of progress using color balance because it was very yellow, and now that I look at it, kind of a little bit of a green tint. And coming over here, I got more into the blue and pink sort of look, which I like a lot, and I think those colors go well with kind of the oranges and yellows that are in that texture. So that's really it. Just some ideas for you. A high contrast black and white is one idea when you have a sky like that. And of course, the other idea is just stick a texture on there and just create a work of art instead of a photo representation of what you saw. I hope that helps. If you haven't yet, as I said earlier, feel free to subscribe, like the video, share it with your friends, leave a comment, that sort of thing. I'll be back with some more Cityscape tutorials. Hope that it's helpful. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks again for tuning in. See you next time, and adios.